Reflecting back on the last year in the pandemic, where to start?
Thing is happening this coronavirus is changing so rapidly. Getting all the information put into one spot is quite time consuming. So, what I'm going to be doing is going through a bunch of different stuff from the government of Canada, the province, the provincial government, what's happening in Ashcroft and Cache Creek, because there's been a lot of changes since yesterday. Pretty much at this moment, all the news that's fit to print. I'm sure that as we've just been sitting here talking for the last half an hour, that there's been lots more happening out in the world. So follow us again tomorrow.
Foods in Ashcroft. I'm sure they're even busier than they normally are. There's no change in hours, but they are making sure that there's lots of extra cleaning in the store. They're asking everybody to be conscious of their physical distancing. They've got extra precautions for the cashiers, and they've got fancy new stickers on the floor to make sure that you know where to stand so that their cashiers is as safe as they can be. So next time you're in, make sure that you give an extra special thank you to everybody working in the store for all the hard work that they're doing.
Here we are, 1 year later after the first lockdown and still in the thick of it. Although we're told that there is light at the end of the tunnel, we're not sure how long it'll take to get through that tunnel. But we continue to look forward to the day when we can enjoy life as we once knew it. January 2020 began like most New Year's do, a fresh beginning and planning for a bright future. Sure, we'd heard the news about Wuhan, China, but that was over there and a long way off. But then we heard about a case of COVID-19 in Toronto, a man who had recently traveled, but he was just in Wuhan, so that was not a surprise and probably not a major concern for Canadians. Shortly after that, we started to hear about other countries reporting concerningly high cases, which was followed by the start of travel bans. At the beginning of March, cases in Canada started to climb, and many of these were not related to travel from Wuhan. By March 17th, everything worldwide shut down. We watched the TV and were glued to social media looking for instant updates on what was happening. It was eerie, unprecedented, as we've heard over and over again, that word, and it was downright scary. By the end of March, we were hearing that transmissions of the virus were happening locally. This was a shift in thinking since it felt like the virus was coming from foreign places, but now it was confirmed that it was here and being passed along at home. This couldn't last long, however, right? It'll run its course like any good flu, and we'll be back to normal soon enough, many thought. It wasn't until June that lockdown restrictions were lifted some and enabled some businesses to open if they could comply with their industry-specific standards, while others were still restricted from having their doors open to the public.
About the whole protocol and how we were going to implement that in the business, but once we figured it all out, and it was all laid out for us, we did not make up the rules by ourselves. It was laid out by the governing body of the Hairdressing Association. So we basically just had to do what we were told to do, which made it a lot easier because when people said, I don't want to wear a mask or whatever, we did not have a choice. They did tell us that they told us we had to close down, and then they said that we could open up, but under strict guidelines. And if we did not adhere to those guidelines, we would be closed down. So for the people that were upset, which wasn't very many, there's nothing we could do about that.
It was during this time that the word pivot became the business buzz. You either have to pivot or you will be out of business, was the idea. Along with pivoting to find innovative and virtual ways to operate, businesses also had to consistently adapt or pivot each time health orders were updated to fit the current pandemic reality. Businesses who are managed by a larger body, like in the case of a dentist or a hairdresser, were given regulations to follow from their governing body. Smaller organizations and businesses not governed by a larger body had to wade through the masses of information from the public health officer, WorkSafe, and any other industry-specific regulators to create their own COVID-19 safety plans. If a business was permitted to be open and wanted to be open to the public, they were required to operate within these orders and regulations. As time went on, of course, we all got trained to take necessary precautions to reduce the chance of becoming infected with the virus. Wash your hands, keep your distance, and eventually wear a mask, among other things like additional cleaning protocols.
Personally, I'm not happy wearing a mask, and neither are a lot of the people that come here. It adds more stress again to people, and some people are still a little bit scared to come. It took quite a few months for people to actually get used to the fact that they could come here.
Most businesses saw a loosening of restrictions as the months after June went on, and the warmer months outdoors helped to slow the spread of the virus. One industry, however, has not been free to operate in over a year: the tourism industry.
Hi, my name's Martina Duncan, and I'm one half of the Duncan team that runs the Blue Sage Bed and Breakfast. And we've had pretty severe impact, I would say, from the pandemic because we have our rooms inside our home and the physical distancing is not possible. We have not been open since mid-March last year.
Although some in this industry have found ways to deliver services, for the most part, this industry has been devastated over the last year. Another group that has recently become more vocal about pandemic restrictions is faith-based groups. These groups, namely churches, were completely shut down when everyone else was, but with the COVID safety plan in place, they were able to reopen to a degree and for a time. In November, however, this group was again restricted from operating most services, which continues to this day.
And with the pandemic and things that have happened since the pandemic, we've had everything changed, of course, mid-March last year, where we had to close the doors and people could no longer come in to worship. So thanks very much to the Hub Online Network. It was in very short order, we started recording our services and then uploading them to the territory of the people.
Stats Canada and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce launched a Canadian survey of business conditions, and the following highlights come from that report. The Canadian economy has changed dramatically starting March 2020 as a result of COVID-19, and the situation has had a profound effect on the ability of businesses in Canada to operate. While the majority of businesses in Canada have been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, it appears that small businesses have been hit particularly hard by this crisis.
Definitely my sales are down. Over the course of the summer was quite interesting because we couldn't do entertainment inside, so we did a lot of shows outside.
Clothing part, I would say that's the part that's as a business has suffered because who's going anywhere? No one's going anywhere. No one's really... that is significantly lower.
They report that revenues of small businesses were down by 20% or more. More of them were down by 20% or more than their counterparts who had 100 or more employees. And by the way, small businesses are defined as those who have employees less than 100. And really that describes pretty much all of the businesses in Ashcroft and Cache Creek. Layoffs. If a small business had to lay one person off, they were more likely to actually have laid off 80% of their workforce. These statistics show. Credit. Small businesses were more likely to request credit from financial institutions over their counterparts of larger business.
And people need to know that it's important to encourage our businesses to take advantage as much as we can to stay open. The grants, the great loans that they're offering through Community Futures, or it's important, and we're fortunate for those funds to be in place, rather than a situation where there's nothing and your bills are creeping up, you can't get staff.
In our little towns of Ashcroft and Cache Creek, businesses and organizations are reporting much the same as these Canadian statistics. However, they've been finding innovative and creative ways to keep providing their services to our communities. To date, we do not know of any businesses who have closed their doors permanently, although most have adapted their operations, including shifting or reducing operating hours in order to accommodate their realities, such as revenue and staffing shortages. Many have also taken advantage of government and grant subsidies to assist them in their continued operations. This past year hasn't been all doom and gloom, however. There have been some aha moments where we've been forced to stop our busy lives and reflect on life, on business, and on what really matters. This slowing down of life has provided new opportunities for creativity and innovation and growth, and there will be some things that we'll hold on to even after life returns to some kind of normal.
Beautiful thing that happened in the community was definitely the collaboration piece. That's part of the joy of living in a small town, is that people come together and problem solve at a local grassroots level. So as most of us are aware, the COVID-19 helpline kind of grew and morphed into this beautiful collaboration piece that continues to happen, ensuring that we're supporting all of our communities and surrounding areas.
Do always have that option outside. That's changed. That's something I actually like.
That was a good thing.
I think that's worked out really well, because people can come on the weekend if they want, or just walk by and sign in, and they know that those are the appointments that are open. So that's something that I think that when this is all over, I would still continue to do.
To, as you can see, add the steam table and have the plexiglass in front of it. So that's given us a lot of extra precautions. We're really happy about those actually, and I think we will keep it this way. I think it's more sanitary.
Obviously we are going to survive this in Ashcroft. The tourism, I'm hoping, will come back. It's so important for all of our bigger attractions. And also what's happening, I feel, is that businesses are regrouping their ability to kind of reinvent themselves. And it comes from being silent almost, and the ability to go within. And when you're an entrepreneur in business, you're always go, 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 and you don't have the time to kind of just reflect.
I just feel fortunate that in a small town, everybody sort of banded together to make sure everyone was taken care of. And we continue to do that a year later, making sure we're still planning and organizing things that meet people's needs and interests in a COVID-friendly way. So huge thanks to the community and those industries and agencies that supported us in a time of need and continue to reach out. Thanks.